Hey, my loves. Hello and welcome to the Yoga Teacher Collaborative podcast, here live streamed into the Yoga Teacher Collaborative Facebook group and also on the Spotify if you are doing podcast recording as well. If you're new here, my name is Laura Green. I'm a yoga teacher, a business mentor, a teacher trainer, an author, and just lover of all things yoga. And today we are doing a special guest session with the fabulous and very knowledgeable and extremely talented Lauren Gray. Lauren will introduce herself in just a moment. All our sessions are really varied, whether we are talking about business, whether we're talking about mindset, whether we're talking about skills as a teacher. Today's session is actually honing in on your personal practice, on your sadhana. Now, that's not to say it won't inspire your teaching as well, because it is from the depths of our personal practice. It is from our sadhana that so much of our inspiration comes. So although we're talking to you in your own personal practice today, feel free to explore this within teaching as well. So we are looking at mudrā as a living sadhana, coming from the gesture of hand positions through to a presence, a real meditative practice, and the stories, the mythology, the devotion that sits behind that. Lauren is the most fabulous teacher. We are flying off to India in just under a week for 3 weeks together. So I know Lauren very, very well, and I am so blessed to know her, partly because she's just a beautiful soul, but also the vastness of her brain. She is a true academic, but an academic in practice. Yes, a lover of knowledge, but not knowledge for the sake of acquisition of knowledge, but for how do you take that into your practice, into something relatable to you. And then Lauren breaks this down into ways that can inspire individuals in their practice. One of the best ways she does this is with wisdom decks. Now, a wisdom deck is not to be confused with an oracle deck. Lauren has created so many wisdom decks, an Indic wisdom deck, which is knowledge of the different gods and goddesses that you might be familiar with from yoga, a Delphi wisdom deck, which is the Greek gods and goddesses. She has done a Mudrā deck. She has done a deck on Surya and Chandra mantras, but it's not an oracle deck where, an oracle deck might be used for divining wisdom outside of yourself. Lauren's wisdom decks are about sharing bite-sized educational scholarly information in a way that is very personal to you and that you can work with in your own personal practice. So I absolutely love them. And today we are exploring if you are on the video, the Mudrā deck. I wish you could see how big this deck is of wonderful mudras with their name, their meaning, an affirmation, a description on the back. So this is the world we are diving into. But first, Lauren, my love, if you just give us a little background introduction to you and how your path became what it is.
Yeah. Firstly, bloody love you. And all of the things that you've said about me are exactly the reasons that I adore spending time with you and being in conversation with you. You are an exemplary intellectual. And I think we both agree that our favorite way to learn is through conversation. So that's literally what we're going to do today, is have one of our great chats and hopefully inspire and give you some nuggets of wisdom to take with you. I have been practicing yoga since I was about 16, 17. I can never really remember. And was a dancer, so I was really drawn to the movement and the flow. And the first yoga class I went to, I felt like, oh, this is like a way of dancing. Sure, great. Another way of moving my body that feels nice. And then a handful of classes in, I came up from maybe the third round of Surya Namaskar A, and I was like, what is that? I just felt this like wonderful cosmic connection, not just to everyone in the room, but everyone in the sphere of where I was stood. And I was like, oh, this isn't just movement. This is something else. This is something I've never felt before. And over the years, that feeling has just gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And initially it was just through the movement, through the asana. Then I started to get it with the pranayama. Then I started to get it with kind of more sensory withdrawal and kind of following the limbs of yoga that we know and love. Then I started feeling it more in conversation with people. Then I started feeling it in mudras, which really started about 4 or so years ago. So we actually did a weekly live about mudras 2.5 years ago. So I went back and I had a look at that, and like how much my knowledge has changed, how much our understanding has changed, both you and I think the people that we surround ourselves with. So yeah, for me, yoga's just been this continual journey of divine immersion and stronger connection. And yeah, I've become a more intelligent, more compassionate human being through yoga. And I just hope that can be spread more broadly through the world, whether that's just with a simple mudra or with a whole bolstering practice of all kinds of different techniques.
I love that. And I've not heard that story from you before about your Surya Namaskar moment. Okay, so I like to work from introductory first and then into whatever tangents appear. If somebody hasn't come across the word mudra before, what is a mudra?
Okay, I was hoping you'd ask that first. Let me look at my notes. Mudra, very, very simple. The basic translation means seal, gesture, and currency. So that word means those 3 things all at the same time, and context would give you what the person is meaning when they're saying that. So in a yoga context, we wouldn't be talking about currency, we'd be talking about seals and gestures. And we would add in front of mudra, hasta mudra, which is what this is all about, hand gestures. So a hasta mudra is a hand gesture. But in my digging whilst writing this wisdom deck, I found the breakdown of the roots, the seed of the breaking up of the word mudra. So first we have mud, which means delight predominantly, but also joy and also bliss. So it's this idea of conjuring this delight. And then you add that to the drā, the second half of the word, which means to draw forth from within. So when we put these 2 words together, we are drawing forth from within a delight, a joy, a bliss. So it's almost like we are allowing this fountain of our inner delight and joy to flow abundantly through, as you can see, my hand's literally doing it now, to flow like out from us into the world. Because of course we would use our hands without even thinking about it to gesture, to add layer and extra meaning to what we might be saying, especially if it's particularly passionate or loving or adoring. We would always, gesture outwards as if it's delight literally coming forth from within. So that's the literal, and then the deeper meaning.
No wonder you like mudra. You are one of the most joyful beings I know, and I associate the word joy beam with you because I think that's how you greet and describe people. Hi, joy beam. So no wonder. And yes, what a beautiful, I didn't know that breakdown of those 2 ropes. That's beautiful. So the introduction of mudra in asana or in meditation or in pranayama, I think if people go to yoga classes, they might have been introduced to a handful, maybe chin mudra or palms together, Anjali mudra, or you may be like Hakini mudra with that fingers spread in that kind of triangle shape. there's a handful, and maybe they're used in meditation, or, so often that chin mudra is squeezed in when someone is having their photo taken in Mudrā in a dancer's pose. And yes, I can feel it in meditation as an anchor. But sometimes it can almost feel superfluous as they're introduced into asana. How do you take mudra from a superfluous, I'm just making a shape because it looks like yoga, into actually something with depth, meaning, and resonance?
You cultivate a deep, meaningful relationship with it yourself.
And how do you do that?
I think it probably was chin, actually. It probably was chin mudra that I first started working with. When I really wanted to begin a personal sadhana, I thought about all of the things that I would want to bring into that. Obviously, I want to be meditating. That's the main goal. I want to sit and I want to be able to meditate. Exactly as you said, the hands are an anchor. A mudra can be an anchor. So I just did that one, read up on it, and I thought, okay, so I do that, and then the fingertips separate. I relax it into my lap or onto my knees, and I can work with the breath with that and allow it all to combine together to make a simple but effective experience. And then through time, you can play with the way that the hand is placed. So actually we're saying chin, but if you turn the palm up in that shape, it's actually gyan mudra. So there's only a very subtle difference between chin and so turning it down, turning it up, allowing what you do with your hands to change the way that you feel and communicate with your own self, with your own being. And then starting to share that in the same way that we would do our research on a muscle or a particular set of ligaments around a joint to then share in an asana. I would say do exactly the same with a mudra. And honestly, I would just say pick one at random. You might really not like it, and that's then informed your decision on whether it's something that you can share yet or not. And have a play. Hands are tricky things.
I noticed, obviously you came in to teach a lecture on Mudrā for my teacher training. And after you'd gone and I came back in, I said to them all, what was your favorite mudra from what you've practiced today? And the diversity between my trainees was huge. So it really, really is personal. And obviously I imagine that changes on a daily basis as well. And I think when we first experience different mudras, we're told what it means. Okay? Oh, chin mudra is cultivating a sense of peacefulness and presence. Jnana mudra is cultivating a sense of wisdom. And it's sometimes that being told, and this is something I've really come to love through chanting, actually. Sometimes being told the meaning of something isn't always helpful. Because, I know when I'm chanting and I always used to want to know, what is the meaning of this mantra? What is the meaning of this mantra? And almost like it would calm the intellectual side of my brain. But then I think it stopped me intuiting and actually connecting with it. So do you think people can practice the mudras and let their meaning be revealed through the practicing? And do you think they might resonate with different people in different ways?
100%. There's no doubt about it. And I think there is always going to be a case for intellectualizing as much as you possibly can and understanding and trying to get the nuts and bolts of everything so that you then feel like you are doing it correctly. But there is also that intuition. And I would say that with anything, that the latter comes, like they happen in that order. You try and intellectualize and understand and read and absorb what someone else has done, what someone else has translated, felt, and brought to you. And then your journey then continues with that on your own terms, with your own experience. Case in point, actually, when I came to your class a few weeks ago, you were doing Mudrā, where we're connecting the thumb pads and the ring fingers. And I now actually teach this differently. I teach a different variation of this. So try bringing your thumb and your ring pads together. And then hopefully you've got a bit of floor or something beside you. And what you want to do is you want to relax the middle section of your ring finger skin onto a surface. So if you can do that on the floor, if you can do that on the chair beside you, even the desk in front of you, like I am, you have your you have your 3 fingertips resting on the floor, but then you also have this part of your ring finger resting onto the ground. That's now how I teach that mudra, because it's Hu is about connecting to the earth beneath us, whereas the same mudra, connecting the same 2 fingertips, is also Prithvi mudra, but that's about connecting to the earth element within us. So there's a very clear distinction between allowing as much of your hand to relax to the earth in this mudra versus relaxing it into your lap, to your knees, or even holding it up. You're connecting to the physical earth element that you can touch and rest upon, and then the earth element that makes your flesh, your bones, your matter, you know?
Yeah, and that actually brings us on nicely to elements. Because, as I said, if you're going to a class, you might be familiar with a handful of mudras, but your wisdom deck is huge. How many mudras are in your deck?
42, 43 off the top of my head, I think.
Okay, 42, 43. That's a huge number. Before we go into elements, why do you think there are so many mudras? So many.
Because we have 10, well, most people have 10 fingers, 2 palms, so many ways. I mean, you can probably move your hands and fingers in ways that I cannot, and vice versa. And there's probably things that are much more comfortable in your hand than they would be in mine. There's so many ways. Like, for example, if we come to another similar mudra to the one that I just did, we have Akasha mudra, which is tapping the thumb and middle finger pad together, which is connecting to the element of space. But if you place the thumb pad onto that middle section of your middle finger, it becomes a completely different mudra. It becomes Shunya mudra, which is the mudra of feeling into the emptiness, the void from which everything springs from and goes back to. So even just doing that to that, that's two mudras. And then also got the fingernail in the middle, which we use, which I don't, off the top of my head, don't know if that is a mudra in itself or a variation of Akasha. But you know, you think about all of the like joints and points on your hands and how many you can combine. 3 of them, you can combine 1 of them, you know, interplay.
I wonder if it's more than that though, because just because my hands can make many different shapes doesn't mean they need to make many different shapes. But even then, when you just discussed, one mudra, I can't remember the name you used, it wasn't familiar then, with about being the void.
Shunya.
Shunya. Do you think it's because, yes, my hands can make very many different shapes, but do you think within the vast collection of mudras, it's trying to experience the vastness of a human existence and the vastness of our universe? Because I didn't even know there was a mudra that was connected to the void and everything coming from and returning to the void. Do you think it's just because there is so much to express that we need so many mudras?
And I couldn't have put that any better. Yeah, what a beautiful way of describing it. I think there is so much vastness and so many different ways of expressing ourselves. You know, even thinking of language, that's like asking, why are there so many words? You know, because there's different ways to express ourselves, and we'll all want to use different words to express how we're feeling. I like to think, you know, as humans, we pretty much all have hands. There's like a base. As humans, we all have bodies. There's this base, but then from that base, there is just this wonderful interplay of communication, not just with one another, but with ourselves and even with the divine. And how can we express all of those sensations and feelings and yearnings? Yeah, keep evolving through the hands and communication of language, not just of words, but of hand gestures, of facial expressions, of body language.
And I think so much that hands are a way of expressing something that the heart knows, but maybe the words aren't there to express. Like maybe simply wanting to tell someone how very much you care for them and how much you love them. It might just be, that's a little bit much to say out loud right now, so I'm just going to give your hand a little squeeze. So I think there is definitely a place where the hands are expressing a truthfulness, and they do say that that hands can give away whether our truth is real. So coming back from there being so very, very many, you simplify that when you first teach into, yes, the universe is vast, but everything in the universe is made up of the great elements. So you simplify it by coming right back to the elements and the mudras that represent those elements. Do you think that's a good way for someone to first start to connect with this as well?
I do. I really do. I think regardless of how much you connect to the elements in your day-to-day life or your personal practice, I think we all know earth, wind, fire, water, space. We all know, and we can all comprehend. You know, you get an idea in your head when I say earth. You know, you might picture a clump of soil, you might picture a mighty oak tree. You have something in your head, and most people will, even if they can't physically visualize it, because I know visualization can be a bit of a hurdle for you sometimes. You might not physically see it, but you know what it is. So it tangibly links something that might feel a little bit esoterical into something that's genuinely rooted in something you see most of the time and you have been exposed to.
And I think if I was to be selecting a mudra for my own personal practice, so I'm not in a yoga class where the teacher has chosen for me, but I'm sat on my mat wanting to do a personal practice, I think I could start by thinking, what element would I like to connect with today? Do I wish to feel more grounded? Do I wish to connect with a little bit of fire? Do I wish to tap into that fluidity of the water element? Am I craving space? So I think that would give me a way to start to select a mudra based on how I'm feeling. Is that something you do?
Every day, absolutely. And there is a feeling that is linked with the elements. I can say, again, take the earth element. I know how much you love your beautiful oak trees, and you are immediately going to go, oh, home. And feel more then at home in your body, because you're connecting to something that makes you feel insanely comfortable, insanely grounded, and deeply connected to the thing that you love the most about where you live.
That's so interesting, because yes, looking at my teaching and my practice, I probably go to Bhru Mudra, the earth mudra, well, one of the earth mudras the most. I might then go to a mudra for fire, but I don't, you know this about me, I like looking at water, but I don't really want to be in it. I don't want to go for a swim. I have to diarize having a bath. And I never do jala. I never do a water mudra, to the degree that I couldn't even tell you what a water mudra is right now. What is, I know for those of you that aren't watching the video as well, is there a jala mudra, a water element mudra?
Absolutely, yeah. So I've already done the Bu and the Akasha space. So earth and space are your ring and middle fingers respectively. And
So
then
like Chin Mudrā, but swapping to different fingers.
exactly, yeah, 100%. And water is linked with your little
Okay.
finger. So there's variations. So I personally wouldn't tell people to bring the pad of the thumb to the pad of the little finger, because to me that makes my other three fingers have to work quite hard. I can feel metacarpals and they're a bit like, oh, which is fine. But for Jala Mudra, I place the thumb pad over the top of the little fingernail. And that relaxed onto your knees is so lovely. And you're
It's so interesting.
yeah.
I find that harder.
Oh,
So
do you? There we go. See, I said
thumb
you
touching,
find
yeah, thumb
yeah,
touching finger pad
yeah.
is fine. Thumb holding down fingernail, I feel stressed in the muscles of my inner thumb. But that kind of brings me on to something I wanted to ask, actually.
Mm.
I don't find all mudras comfortable, but I don't find all asana comfortable. And I don't approach an asana going, oh, that's not very comfortable. I must be doing it wrong. Obviously, I listen to signals of pain, but if something is, I can feel a stretch in that, or I can feel I'm building up my strength in that, or I can feel that there's tightness in my body here. So actually, maybe there's something to be released in. But I think I come to mudras with this expectation that they should all be easy, effortless, and comfortable. And therefore, if they're not, I don't like them and I don't do them. What are your thoughts on that?
Without getting too psychological, you don't like being immersed in water. So
Yeah.
why would Jala Mudra be comfortable for you? Why would like, yes, of course, there's an anatomical answer to why you find the pads easier than over the fingernail, but there's also a psychological reason to it as well. Like, on the whole, most people find connecting with the ring finger the hardest because it's the most rooted, hence why it's linked with the element of earth. But
now I find that the easiest.
well, there we go. There we go. So it's interesting to then play with which one feels easy, which one doesn't feel easy. Is there resistance for just an anatomical reason, or is it perhaps that you have a bit of an aversion to being in water or to feeling the water within you? You know, if you don't want to be immersed in water, then that feeling of I'm made up of whatever it is, 70 something percent, might not feel like an overly welcoming thought for you to have. I know you would prefer to think of yourself as a being made completely of stardust.
Yeah. So that would be the Akasha.
Exactly, rather than being a mermaid.
So then do you think there's value in, with kindness and compassion to the self, working with the mudras that there maybe is some resistance towards?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us on to practice. Now, we've already mentioned the word sadhana quite a few times. If somebody is unfamiliar with sadhana, on a very simplistic level, what is sadhana?
A daily meeting with yourself is how I would see it.
That's really a lovely reframe of practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because practice requires a sense of discipline. And I think when yoga teacher was told, oh, you must keep your personal practice, you must keep your personal practice. Sometimes it's easy to think that means rolling out my yoga mat, doing sun salutations, doing the warrior two. Whereas sadhana for me isn't the pressure that it must look a particular way or it must even be asana. My sadhana rarely is asana. So a meeting, a daily meeting with yourself. And what is the purpose of a daily meeting with the self? And just to be antagonistic, what self of me? I mean, I could have a daily meeting with me as a CEO that runs 4 companies self. Which self is it? And then that would end up as writing a to-do list for the week. What self am I meeting in my sadhana?
So hopefully to bring this all together, I have actually written this down. This is why we share a brain, because I was thinking you'd go this way.
I had no idea I was going to go this way.
So this is it. But so mudra, coming back to one of the original meanings of mudra, which was currency, which feels a little bit out of place, a bit off-piste as a meaning for the word mudra.
It actually didn't for me. It called me in because my brain immediately changed the word currency to energy.
Yeah,
because I see currency as an exchange of energy.
And that's exactly what I was about to say. Is an exchange. It can be an exchange of ideas. It can, of course, be an exchange of money. It can be an exchange of energy. And currency is a way of communicating. It can be a promise. So I can say, I've done this thing for you, therefore I am due payment from you for that thing. You know, very, very transactional, I know, but it can be energetic as well. I used to run a donation yoga class, and people used to pay me in olive oil, in cake, in baked loads of bread. Like, you know, that's a type of currency. It's an energy exchange. Anyway, I digress. So it's a type of communication. It is ultimately a promise, because I trust that our energy exchange will come to fruition because I trust you. And we then have 3 different types of communicating. So we have interpersonal, which is like you and me talking right now. Then we have intrapersonal, which is communicating with ourselves. And then we have transpersonal communication, which is communication with divine. And I see
I've never heard those 3.
Oh, well, there we go. Happy Forever Learning Friday. So intrapersonal is communicating with the self. And I see this as, like you say, you can come out of a conversation with yourself. I talk to myself a lot, so I talk to my dog. So I can come out of a conversation with myself, and it's very pragmatic. And it's very much like, okay, well, now I've got my head straight on and I know what I'm doing for the day. But the day never goes in that way. So it's very, very silly for me to sit down in my sadhana in the morning and have a meeting with my busy business brain, because it's not how everything goes on a day-to-day basis. So instead, I try and meet what I would call the deeper layers of myself. I'm meeting my emotional self. I'm meeting my spiritual self. I'm meeting perhaps my mental self, but the part of my brain that isn't interested in the logistics of things.
Yeah.
My brain that's like, oh, well, what's going on? Like maybe questioning and not answering, you know, because you have to answer everything. So in my sadhana, that's the kind of communication that I am entering into. And it started when I first started doing a sadhana practice, very, very simply. Morning, Lauren, how are you doing today? You know, like, how am I feeling? That feels really heavy. I don't want to add any heaviness, so I'm not going to do anything earth related today. I'm going to focus on my breathing. Is there a mudra that can really help me find a more easeful breath and lift me out of this heavy slump that I'm currently feeling? Yes, I've found one. I've got it. Let's use it. And in that practice. So the mudra became an anchor of inner communication for myself. And I often imagine this little flow. So when my brain, let's all, if you can, let's all have a little wiggle and a fidget. Sit and breathe length up through your spine. Soften the slope of your shoulders and either soften your gaze or fully close your eyes. Allow your hands to be as comfortable as they can, relaxed into your lap, to the earth beside you. Palms can be facing upwards for a more open, receptive gesture, or palms can be down on your knees for a more interconnected sensation. And finding a natural, nourishing pace and depth of breath. Noticing perhaps first how your mind is thinking about breathing. And perhaps noticing how you can hear the deeper breaths moving in and out through the nose. And perhaps noticing the temperature change, the coolness of the inhale as it journeys into your body. And the warmth of your exhale as it releases from your body. And tracing that awareness of breath down from the head space into the heart space. How are you feeling? How does that heart feel? And can the breath now feel as though it is coming from and returning back to the heart? As if in this moment, the heart is the source of the breath. And can you feel the very beginning of a trickle of energy? The inhale sending a little bit more awareness from the heart out and up into the shoulders. The exhale allowing that flow to cascade down each of your arms and into your palms. And can the simple, still gesture that you've chosen in your hands send a gentle message back up the arms with your inhale to flow into your heart with your exhale? And that flow of prana descend, rise, journey out, and journey back in.
That feels so lovely.
And then I would just end with releasing the hands from wherever they are, no matter how simple, no matter how complex the mudra felt, just rubbing them together. And then I often place them onto the heart. But if my head feels particularly busy and buzzy, I'll place my hands on my head in some way just to physically bring that up and in. That's literally how I start my sadhana every morning. Just that.
Mm. And then will you pick a mudra after checking in then? Yeah. Yeah. And do you use your own deck?
I do.
So how do you use your own mudra deck?
So I have an altar space, which is on quite a low shelf. So I'm sat on the floor with that. It's probably about chest height when I'm sat down. So it's really nice to see. And I have my deities, I have incense, I have candles, I have things that really enliven the senses, but in a very soft way. And I will usually, I'm very, very basic in the mornings. Give me as little to do and I will do my sadhana. If you give me too much to do, no. So I will literally hold it and then I will probably give it a little bit of a shuffle, but more often than not, I just cut the deck.
Yeah, it's too big for me to shuffle with my little hands.
Yeah, and this is it. And I would just sort of sort of shuffle it, but you don't have to complete, you know, I'm rubbish with things like that. I can't shuffle. So I often end up just sort of like shimmying them in clumps, but I literally just whoop, and then that's the one that I'm going to work with. But the other thing about the mudra deck is if you don't want to be that random, they are ever so slightly color coordinated. So they've all got different colors, and the different colors are linked with the elements that they are tied with. So you've got all of the quite pale ones. So the really, really pale, almost like pale pinky ones.
Like I've got Anjali in that.
Yeah, exactly. And then like prana, they're all more airy or more uplifting or more spacious. Shunya, the one that I mentioned earlier, is in there, void. And then we've got ones like kundalini, which is, of course, awakening that coiled serpent from the base of the spine and rising it through. And that brings that sensation of inner strength. So that would be linked more with the element of fire. Agni mudra would be that color too. I'm not going to flick through to find it. And then where are we? And then I've got this one I really like. I like this one at the moment, Mira, which is a water mudra, but it's ocean. So it's the depths of the ocean.
I like that one.
Yeah, I love that one. There you go. There's your water mudra to work with.
Oh no, I didn't have it right.
So you have your 2 thumb pads and your 2 little finger pads and all together, and then your ring finger pads a bit.
No, I did have that. I really liked that. That's lovely. Well, maybe there's my, and that's nice that there's more than one that's connected to that element. So, okay, so I want to work with the water element, but Jala is uncomfortable for me. Here's a gateway in.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, a lot of the time you see that mudra like up, like you've got antlers pointing almost, but I really like pointing it forwards, because to me, that is, I hold it at my heart or at my lower belly, usually. Sādhana chakra, flow of creation. I would hold it there and point my index and middle fingers outwards, because that symbolizes the heart of the ocean and the waves that flow to and fro from it. So sit with that, especially if I feel like I need to be particularly go with the flow, you know, have no idea what the day is going to hold. It might be a bit of chaos and I need to be ready for that. That would be a good mudra to pick for that, for sure.
No, that's really, really interesting. And, you know, I really like that we've stayed within talking about our personal sadhana, because as I said, we have done a podcast before about how to use mudras for sequencing. But I really think it's important that we sit with something in our personal practice first. And I know it's so easy to get excited about how we want to share and bring that inspiration in. But it comes from the bedrock of the personal practice first. That's what makes it feel authentic. So I'd say if, you know, bringing mudras on just from a generic gesture that we make when we have a photograph of dance pose into a personal felt experience has to start in our own meditation practice or our own quiet contemplation, and then seeing how that might filter in 6 months later into a practice. Thank you, my lovely. Anything else that you would like to add on that topic today?
Yeah, maybe one tiny little like so we often think of mudras as being the hands, hasta mudra, but there's lots of different types of mudra. So we have mana mudras as well, which are mana, head, and we would use a focal point in meditation. So you can take mudra from the hands and you can make it about coming into the head as well. So we've got I never really say these out loud, so apologies if I absolutely butcher the Sanskrit on this, but Shambhavi mudra, which is gazing at the eyebrow center, drawing that in, and it's the same idea of drawing 2 things together at a single point, like chin or gyan mudra. We then have Nasikagra, which is gazing at the tip of the nose. We have
that a closed-eyed gaze, so rather than like a drishti, like a closed eye holding your awareness there, or an open eye.
Either. My preference would be closed eyed. That's not always comfortable for some people, so it is nice to offer it open-eyed. Then we have one that helps with our Sanskrit pronunciation, which is kachari, which I don't know if it's actually spelt the same as the Ayurvedic dish. I think it might be, but that is bringing your tongue into a retroflex. So you bring the tip of your tongue, curl it up and back onto the roof of your mouth and hold it there as a mudra. And that can help train us into the language, again, another way of deepening our communication in the language of yoga, becoming more comfortable with that position that's in so many words. And then we have types of mudra which actually involve the whole body. These are called kaya mudra, and viparita karani falls into this category. So we might think of that being an asana, but it would
just, if anyone didn't understand what viparita karani is,
legs up the wall. We would legs up the wall, but that's not the literal translation, is it? I remember Sunny telling us what is it?
I can't remember right now. And in the tantric text, it's just any inversion. Inversion.
Yeah, it's just being upside down, whether that feels really relaxing or really energizing, just being in inversion. But that would be classed as a mudra. And then we've got Baddha Konasana, but specifically when you open the feet like a book and massage, that's a mudra, because again, you're connecting hands to feet, being more intentional with that connection point. I
love that. I love the idea of the mana. Did you say mana for mind? Mana mudra?
Mana, yeah, mind. Yeah, I said head, didn't I? Mind. Yeah.
No, that's really interesting. So many things to learn today. So thank you. I love your wisdom decks, and I think I have all of them. Although they do get steadily depleted because I give them out in class. But the Mudrā deck and the Surya deck and the Chandra deck, they are still complete and full. The Delphic deck I gifted someone, and my Indic deck is incredibly depleted. But if somebody wanted to, of course, the Mudrā deck is what we're talking about today. So I will share a link for someone to be able to get your Mudrā deck. But what about the whole collection? Is the whole collection available right now? Can people buy one or two decks?
Yes, so with the particularly the Surya and Chandra, they're linked together. You can buy them separately if you want to, but it's cheaper if you buy them as a pair, because they just complement so wonderfully together. And then early next year, I will be releasing a mantra wisdom deck, which I'm going to put together with the Mudrā one, because they'll work so well for building a personal sadhana, a practice, a daily meeting with yourself, and just being able to have something at the ready, at the go, to be able to anchor into something and learn something, maybe from being told it, or maybe from allowing it to arise from within.
And don't you have a celestial deck on the way? That would be a nod of a yes.
Yes, it is. I actually have loads. I have a tree one. I have a Celtic one. I have a Norse one. What else have I got?
I like the sound of the tree one. So I imagine that's got a ginkgo right front and center.
I've done them alphabetically, but yes, ginkgo is in there, absolutely. And I also have a huge feminine wisdom deck where I bring together lots of amazing, lesser known goddesses, but also just feminine beings or actual people that have lived and left a mark on this world with their divine feminine front and center.
I love that. Many more to come. So my loves, I will make sure you get the link, but if you can't be bothered to find the link, it's Lauren Gray, Gray. If you just put Lauren Gray Yoga into the internet, you will find Lauren's website very easy, that has a section on it called Wisdom Decks. And also you'll find her on social media as well. I suggest you give her a follow, because as you can tell, she is a vast font of knowledge. Otherwise, thank you so very much for joining us. We will have a little bit of a pause in the live episodes, but I'll keep sharing you some of our best replays going back through the years. So I'm going to be in India for 3 weeks from next week. So thank you for joining us today. Lauren, thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Bye for now, my loves.